In the pale light of dawn, a city sleeps, shrouded in mist. This is Constantinople, the queen of cities, the last bastion of a once mighty Roman Empire. Its walls, the legendary Theodosian walls, have stood for 1,000 years, a stone sentinel against countless foes. For centuries they have guarded the heart of Christendom, repelling armies and defying emperors. But now, in the year 1453, an ancient prophecy whispers on the wind. The city is weary, its stones cracked, its people few. The great chain across the Golden Horn rusts in the salty air. Inside the hallowed halls of Hagia Sophia, priests chant under mosaics of gold, their prayers echoing through a capital haunted by ghosts of its glorious past. The markets are quiet, a testament to an empire in its twilight, a golden apple ripe for the picking. For over a millennium, the Byzantine Empire had illuminated the world. From the sun-drenched coasts of Italy to the sands of Egypt, its influence was absolute. But centuries of war, plague, and internal strife had taken their toll. The once vast empire had withered, its territories carved away by rising powers. Now, it was little more than a city-state, an island of Christianity in a sea of Ottoman expansion. Inside the Blachernae Palace, Emperor Constantine the Vitins Balaiologos carries the weight of 14 centuries on his shoulders. He is a soldier emperor, determined but exhausted, leading a shadow of an army. His men are a collection of loyal Byzantines, Genoese mercenaries, and Venetian sailors, brave but hopelessly outnumbered. In the streets, whispers of an approaching storm fill the air. The people look to their walls, their emperor and their god, praying for a miracle that history had taught them to expect. But this time, the threat was different. Across the Bosporus, in the city of Edirne, a new power was rising, embodied by a young, ambitious sultan. At just 21 years old, Mehmed II was a force of nature, a scholar, a linguist, and a military genius obsessed with a single, audacious goal: the conquest of Constantinople. He had studied the campaigns of Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar, poring over maps and ancient treatises. He saw Constantinople not merely as a prize, but as his destiny. To achieve it, he assembled one of the most formidable armies the world had ever seen. The elite Janissaries, his personal guard, trained with relentless discipline. An endless sea of soldiers, engineers, and artisans gathered, their purpose singular and unwavering. Mehmed was not just a warrior, he was a visionary. He understood that to breach the unbreachable walls, he needed more than men. He needed a weapon of unimaginable power. That weapon was born in fire and steel, forged by a master engineer named Urban. A Hungarian cannon founder, Urban had first offered his services to the Byzantines, who could not afford his price. Mehmed, however, recognized his genius and gave him unlimited resources. The result was the Shahi, or the Great Bombard, a colossal cannon over 27 feet long, capable of hurling stone balls weighing half a ton. Transporting this metal behemoth required 60 oxen and hundreds of men. Its creation was a marvel of 15th century engineering, a symbol of Ottoman ambition and ingenuity. When it was test-fired, the sound was like the wrath of God, the shockwave shattering windows for miles. The cannonball screamed through the air and pulverized a stone wall as if it were dust. For Mehmed, the message was clear. The ancient walls of Constantinople, which had defied 100 sieges, would soon face their ultimate test. On April 2, 1453, the horizon darkened. The Ottoman army arrived, a tide of humanity that stretched as far as the eye could see. Tens of thousands of soldiers, a forest of tents, and a symphony of war drums descended upon the plains outside the city. From the battlements, the defenders looked on in horror. The scale of Mehmed's force was beyond anything they had imagined. The Sultan, observing the city through his telescope, established his command post and gave the order. The great bombards opened fire. For weeks, the cannons roared day and night, their relentless barrage shaking the very foundations of the city. The ancient walls, which had never faced gunpowder on this scale, began to crumble. Stone turned to rubble. Towers collapsed into clouds of dust. Inside, civilians huddled in churches, praying as the world trembled around them. Day after day, the defenders worked tirelessly under a hail of stone and fire, patching the breaches with earth, wood, and anything they could find, their defiance a testament to the city's enduring spirit. Despite the relentless bombardment, the city held. Its defenders, led by the emperor himself and the valiant Genoese commander Giovanni Giustiniani Longo, fought with the courage of cornered lions. But Mehmed faced a critical problem. Constantinople's naval defenses were formidable. A massive chain stretched across the mouth of the Golden Horn, the city's natural harbor, preventing the Ottoman fleet from attacking its weaker sea walls. So, the Sultan devised a plan of breathtaking audacity. In a single night, under the cover of darkness, his men executed one of the greatest feats of military logistics in history. They laid down a path of greased logs over the hill of Galata. Then, using sheer manpower, they dragged 70 of their warships overland, pulling them up one side of the hill and down into the waters of the Golden Horn. When dawn broke, the Byzantine defenders stared in disbelief. The Ottoman fleet now sat in their harbor, bypassing the chain entirely. The city was now surrounded, its fate tightening like a noose. The following weeks were a brutal, grinding ordeal. Rain turned the battlefield into a sea of mud. Ottoman miners dug tunnels to collapse the walls from beneath, only to be met by Byzantine counterminers in desperate subterranean combat. Assault after assault was thrown at the battered walls and repulsed. The city was starving, its defenders exhausted, but their will was unbroken. Priests held solemn processions, carrying sacred icons along the walls, pleading for divine intervention. In the Ottoman camp, Mehmed grew impatient. His army was suffering losses, and the siege was taking longer than he had anticipated. He offered the emperor one final chance to surrender the city peacefully. Constantine refused. He would defend his city, his people, and his faith to the last. With no other option, Mehmed prepared for an all-out final assault. Before dawn on May 29, 1453, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. Then, with a single command from the Sultan, the storm broke. Thousands of horns, drums, and trumpets shattered the morning quiet, and the final assault began. Waves of Ottoman troops surged forward, their battle cries echoing across the plains. They threw themselves at the walls, raising thousands of ladders, only to be met with a hail of arrows, stones, and Greek fire. The fighting was ferocious, a chaotic swirl of steel and blood. For hours the defenders held their ground. But then a small group of Janissaries discovered a gate, the Kerkoporta, left unlocked by mistake. They poured through the opening, securing a foothold inside the city and raising the Ottoman standard on a tower. At the same moment, the commander Giustiniani was gravely wounded, and his retreat from the front lines caused a panic. The defense wavered, then broke. The Ottoman tide was now unstoppable. The lines of exhausted defenders collapsed. Emperor Constantine V, seeing that all was lost, cast aside his imperial regalia and charged into the fray, disappearing into the maelstrom of fighting, a Roman emperor dying as a common soldier. Chaos engulfed the city. The great bells of Constantinople tolled in alarm as terrified civilians ran through the streets, seeking refuge in churches. Smoke and flames consumed the ancient capital that had stood for over 1100 years. The Roman Empire was no more. Later that day, Sultan Mehmed II rode into the city he had coveted for so long. He entered not as a ravager, but as a conqueror. He ordered an end to the looting and declared that the people would be protected. He rode slowly through the debris-strewn streets to the heart of the fallen city, the great cathedral of Hagia Sophia. Dismounting, he walked inside, humbled by its majestic beauty. Majestic, As sunlight streamed through the high windows, illuminating the dust-filled air, he ordered that the magnificent structure be preserved and converted into a mosque. On this day, an empire died and a new one was born. The 21-year-old sultan, who had conquered the unconquerable city, would forever be known to history as Mehmed the Conqueror. His victory redrew the map of the world and marked the true end of the Middle Ages.